Good afternoon and evening for everyone. It is the intent of the County Board of the County of McLean, State of Illinois, to approve an operating assistance application for show bus. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by McLean County at the McLean County Government Center, room 400, 115 East Washington Street, Bloomington, Illinois, at 5:30 p.m. on March 19, 2019. Regarding the IDOT fiscal year 2019 combined application for Section 5311 and Downstate Operating Assistance Public Transportation Grant. At this hearing, McLean County will afford an opportunity for interested persons or agencies to be heard with respect to the proposal by the McLean County Highway Department for show bus for rural public transportation for McLean, Livingston, Iroquois, Ford, DeWitt, and Macon counties. At this time, I hereby declare this public hearing and meeting open. Do I have anyone present who wishes to speak in opposition of the application? Member Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is not strictly in opposition. I have two questions that I'd like to raise and get answered if I could, and I hope that is in order under procedures for a public hearing. The first is simply a straightforward question. What are the dates of the fiscal year for show bus?
I'm going to ask Mrs. Laura Dick to come up so she can answer your question for show bus as a representative.
Without objection.
Is there an objection?
Thank you. Our fiscal year runs from July 1 to June 30.
Thank you for that. My other question is, I went through some of the numbers. Mr. Schmidt was kind enough to forward an email that you had composed in response to some questions that had come in. And in adding up the numbers, I found a gap. It's not a significant gap, but it's about $284,000. That's not small change. But I went through the numbers you provided, and I couldn't see where those dollars were accounted for. And it's a matter of curiosity and nothing more.
Are you referring to the email I sent out? I'm not certain.
Yes, I am.
Okay. The only revenues I discussed in the email were the revenues from Downstate Operating Assistance Program and Section 5311. I didn't go into all of the other sources of revenue. Was that where the confusion was?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I put a spotlight on what I noticed? You had provided the FY 2018 cost as submitted for the year-end NTD operating data report. That was something in excess of $2.3 million. Then you went on to say, in response to the question how much of the total cost is provided by grant funding, Section 5311 and about $1.5 million in state and downstate operating assistance program. There was also a question a little further on how much of the total cost is offset by rider fees.
Correct.
I took a look at the first number, then I set about adding those numbers,
Yes.
and there was still some money that...
Absolutely,
yeah.
right.
And it was a matter, again, of curiosity. This
Right.
is not a matter of significance with anything close to a capital S.
Correct.
Just curious.
The majority of the remaining money would come from service contracts with not-for-profit agencies, and that would not be counted as fare. Fare box money or rider money is only counted as fare money if the individual puts it in the fare box. So most of the remaining money would come from service contracts from not-for-profits and some small amount of money from community donations, United Ways, and that I didn't go into in the email.
Thank you. That answers my question, and I appreciate it very much, and thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Mr. Gordon. Thank you, Mrs. Dick. And I'm gonna assume that this was a part of his speaking, and since we don't have anything else on decorum on that, as a question, it's part of the opposition. So thank you, with your permission. Is there any other questions? Any other one that wants to speak in opposition of the application? Do I have anyone present who wants to speak in favor of the application? I'll ask one more time, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition or in favor of the application? If none, then I'm going to declare this public hearing closed. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to call the regular meeting to McLean County Board. Pursuant to Section 2020 C2A of the McLean County Code, member Gerald Thompson has requested to attend and participate in this meeting remotely. Proper notice was received in accordance with the board rules. Is there any objection to member Thompson attending and participating remotely? With no objection, then I deem his request to attend and participate remotely approved. And do we have him on the line?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Thank you. Next order of business. In light of all the mass murders in our nation's schools, Southern churches, Protestant churches in our cities, Las Vegas, in our own state, including our public university in DeKalb and in Aurora, Illinois, keeping in mind the tragedy at the Jewish synagogue in Pittsburgh, and most recently, the senseless acts of violence in the Netherlands, and the tragedy in the Muslim mosque in New Zealand, in support of all the victims, including support of our local religious affiliated community members here in McLean County, I ask you all to rise and observe a moment of silence for all the victims and their families. Thank you. Will you remain standing, please, for the invocation by Member Casely?
Please join with me in prayer. We give thanks to Thee, most gracious Lord, for the expectation of the arrival of another springtime, tomorrow at 5:45 p.m. We look forward to longer days and more warming rays of sunlight, for the beauty of the earth, for the time to sow seeds, for the songs of birds and the loveliness of flowers. We praise you for these good gifts. And even though spring comes every year, we are always grateful for its arrival. We note the passing of our former McLean County Board member, Vernon Prenzler, who was instrumental as a Bloomington City Council member in the construction of Evergreen Lake, and then, after being elected to the county board, was instrumental in the establishment of Cumlara Park upon the shores of that lake. We owe him and his fellow county board members at that time a debt of gratitude for their vision in establishing this park for the education and recreation of our citizens. Gracious Lord, grant unto us, in the actions we take at this time, a similar vision of what will benefit our citizens in the future and the courage to take those actions. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would our county clerk please call the roll?
William Casely. Sharon Chung. Chuck Erickson. George Gordon.
Present.
Elizabeth Johnston. Randall Martin.
Present.
Catherine Metzger.
Present.
Scott Murphy.
Here.
Carla Robustelli. Susan Schaefer. Logan Smith. James Solner. Gerald Thompson. Shana Wachinski. George Wendt. Lori Wilrab. Josh Barnett. Jacob Beard. Lindsay Bloomfield. John McIntyre.
Present. 20 members are present, no one absent. We do have a quorum. We have no appearances by members of the public or county employees this evening. So we'll move on to the consent agenda in front of you. What say you? Is motion, Member Woolram?
I move that we accept the agenda as presented.
Motion by Member Woolrab, second by Member Schaefer. Comments or questions? If none, all in favor of accepting the consent agenda as presented, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. Motion has carried. That was a delayed aye, I believe. You'll notice on pages 45 through 50 are transfer ordinances. Is there anyone who would like to cast a dissenting vote? It requires a 2/3 vote. If not, then we'll consider the consent agenda and the transfer ordinances to be passed unanimously. And we'll move on now to the item G on page 3, which is approval of resolutions and congratulations and commendations. This time I'd like to invite Member Scott Murphy to the podium.
We have some outstanding wrestlers here in the room with us today, and we also have some outstanding, we have 2 others who were not able to make it today. I want to honor these wrestlers because I think that oftentimes the wrestlers get overlooked in the March Madness of basketball and all that sort of thing. One of the things about wrestlers, and these gentlemen will know exactly what I'm talking about, you can't just show up. You have to actually show up and make weight. When the basketball players are done with practice, they go get a drink, they go have a candy bar. The wrestlers, first thing they do is go to the scale and check your weight to see whether you're going to make weight for the match the next day. If you're a 1/4 pound, 1/8 of a pound, 1/16 of a pound overweight, you have to forfeit. So Thanksgiving can be a very, very, very depressing time, because generally the very first match is the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So, yeah. And I don't know if they still do. We used to get, at January 1st, we would get 2 pounds growth allowance. Yeah. So when you'd ask a wrestler, what was the best Christmas present you got? They'd go, 2 pounds. So only the wrestlers really understand that one. But so I want to make sure that these gentlemen are recognized for what they've done. Illinois is one of the top states for wrestling. In Iowa, California, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. We have 14 weight classes, and we have 3 enrollment classes. So there's 42 state champions. We have 3 here today. And with the 2 from Prairie Central who were not able to make it, we have 5 state champions out of 42 in this county. We had over 12% of the state champions come from McLean County. Well, that's including Cook County, DuPage County, all the collar counties, and there's got some very tough guys that come out of there too. So to do what these young men have done is pretty impressive. The first one I would like to introduce is Chad Bellis from Bloomington. At 106 pounds, he was 44-11. He is only the 4th state champion in Bloomington High School's history. So Chad. Whereas the McLean County Board wishes to recognize the outstanding performance by Bloomington High School wrestler Chad Bellis during the 2018-2019 wrestling season, and whereas Mr. Chad Bellis finished his sophomore year wrestling in the 106 weight pound class with a 44-11 record, and whereas Chad Bellis was 4th in the Illini Classic and 3rd in the Sycamore Invitational, placed 1st at the 2018 Southeast Regionals in both freestyle and Greco-Roman, 1st in regionals, 1st in sectionals, and 1st in state, whereas Mr. Chad Bellis made the All Big 12 Conference first team and was co-wrestler of the year, whereas it is appropriate and fitting for the McLean County Board to recognize and congratulate Mr. Chad Bellis on his performance and accomplishments now, therefore, be it resolved by the members of the McLean County Board that Chad Bellis is to be congratulated on winning the 2019 IHSA 2A 106-pound individual state champion match and on an outstanding season. Congratulations. Well done. Well done. The next person I would like to acknowledge is Levi Nylib from Hayworth. At 113 pounds, he was 37-1 as a junior, and he is well, actually, you were the first state champion because your match was one match before his. So he is the first state champion in school history, though I believe Mr. Spencer would call for a tie. So whereas McLean County Board wishes to recognize the outstanding performance by Hayworth High School wrestler Levi Nylib during the 2018-19 wrestling season, and whereas Mr. Levi Nylib finished his junior year wrestling in the 113-pound weight class with a 40-1 record, and whereas Levi Nylib was second in the Fort Zumwalt tournament, first at the Princeton tournament, first in the regionals, first in sectionals, first in state, and whereas Mr. Levi Nylib was selected as the Chuck Murdoch 113-pound Wrestler of the Year as team captain and was instrumental in helping the team finish fourth in the state. And whereas it is appropriate and fitting that the McLean County Board recognize and congratulate Mr. Levi Nylib on his performance and accomplishments now, and therefore be it resolved by the members of the McLean County Board that Levi Nylib is to be congratulated on winning the 2019 IHSA Class 1A 113-pound individual state wrestling championship and on an outstanding season. The next person is Gabe Spencer from Hayworth, wrestled at 120 pounds. His record is 53-0. He was almost the first state champion in Hayworth's history. Hayworth has only had wrestling for 7 years, and these young men have come out of that program, and their coach, Mr. Collins, is very instrumental in their progress. But Mr. Spencer was also named Pantograph Area Wrestler of the Year. Over 2 undefeated Prairie Central wrestlers, they had to go look at the records of their opponents to try and figure out which one was going to be the Wrestler of the Year because 3 of them were undefeated. Whereas the McLean County Board wishes to recognize the outstanding performance by Hayworth High School wrestler Gabe Spencer during the 2018-2019 wrestling season, and whereas Mr. Gabe Spencer finished his junior year wrestling in the 120-pound weight class with a 53-0 record, and whereas Mr. Gabe Spencer was first at the Fort Zumwalt tournament, first in the Princeton tournament, first at the Mahomet tournament, first in regionals, first in sectional, and first in state. Mr. Gabe Spencer was selected as the Chuck Murdoch 120-pound Wrestler of the Year and was instrumental in helping the team finish fourth in the state. And whereas it is appropriate and fitting for the McLean County Board to recognize and congratulate Mr. Gabe Spencer on his performance and accomplishments now, and therefore be it resolved by the members of the McLean County Board that Gabe Spencer is to be congratulated on winning the 2019 IHSA Class 1A 120-pound individual state championship and on an outstanding season. Gentlemen, very much appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Murphy. As you probably could tell, Member Murphy had been there and done that. He was also an outstanding high school wrestler. Were you in what weight class, 118 or 110?
138, senior year.
Wow. Way to go. Well, thanks a lot. We'll move on to item G2 on our agenda, a proclamation recognizing Women's History Month. I'd like to invite Member Lori Woolrab to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Today I'm proud to present a proclamation in honor of Women's History Month. Some may ask why it's important to separately recognize women's history. It is because there have been many unacknowledged women who have made history. Until relatively recent times, women were often not allowed to create history. They were left out of discussions or unable to write or publish our own works. Within my lifetime, I've been proud to see women achieving in fields and careers from which they were traditionally barred. While there is still equal footing to be gained in many areas, women are now represented as mathematicians, physicians, attorneys, military officers, engineers, Supreme Court justices, astronauts, and as world leaders, to name but a few. Yet prior to these gains, there were many, many women who made exceptional contributions to our world. Their legacy and the history of recent achievements is inspirational to future generations, allowing young people to envision what is possible for them in the future, and is instructional and inspiring to all of us. So I'm now reading the proclamation to announce March 2019 Women's History Month. Whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. Whereas American women have played and continue to play critical economic, cultural, and social role in every sphere of the life of the nation by constituting a significant portion of the labor force, working inside and outside the home, and whereas American women constitute a majority of the volunteer labor force of the nation and were particularly important in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in our nation. Whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background served as early leaders in the forefront of every major progressive and social change movement. Whereas American women have served our country courageously in the military. Whereas American women have been leaders not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the abolitionist, emancipation, industrial labor, civil rights, peace, and other movements, which create a more fair and just society for all. Whereas, despite these contributions, the role of American women in history has been consistently undervalued in the literature, teaching, and the study of American history. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the McLean County Board that March is designated as Women's History Month, adopted by the McLean County Board this 19th day of March, 2019.
Thank you, Mrs. Woolram. We'll move on to the report of the standing committees. First committee is Executive Committee, Vice Chairman Sollner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Executive Committee has one item to present today. 7A1A requests approval of a proposal for copiers through the Information Technologies Department. It was distributed at stand-up, and I would so move.
Motion by Vice Chairman Sollner. Is there a second? Second by Member Gordon. Comments or questions? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion has carried.
That's the only action item we have today. There are various reports, and our unapproved minutes are on page 3 through 10. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to the report of the Justice Committee. Chairman Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Justice Committee brings 3 items for action to the board this afternoon. Item B1A, request approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2019 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance, General Fund 0001, Court Services Department 0022, found on pages 88, 89 in our packets, and I'll move that.
Motion by Chairman Gordon, second by Member Martin. Comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This is a 2/3 vote requirement. Are there any dissenting votes to be recorded? If none, it passes unanimously. Sir, go on.
Thank you. Item B1B, request approval of the renewal of an IDPA 4D grant intergovernmental agreement 2018-55-07 with the Illinois Department of Health Care and Family Services through the Office of the Circuit Clerk, and I will move that.
Motion by Chairman Gordon, second by Member Casely. Comments or questions? If none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried.
Our last item, sir, is item B1C, request approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2018 combined annual appropriation through administration. This also, as an emergency appropriation, requires 2/3 vote, found on pages 93, 94, and I'll move that.
Motion by Chairman Gordon. Is there a second? Second by Member Metzger. Comments or questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Dissenting votes? Motion is carried. Our last item, sir, is item B1D, request approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2018 combined annual appropriation through administration. This also, as an emergency appropriation, requires 2/3 vote, found on pages 93, 94, and I'll move that.
Aye.
Dissenting votes? If not, motion is carried unanimously.
Our general report can be found in the unapproved minutes on pages 28 through 33, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to the report of the Finance Committee. Chairman Solner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance has 4 items to present today. The first one is C1A, request approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2019 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance in General Fund 0001, Animal Control 0032, General Fund County Board 0001. It requires a 2/3 approval. I so move.
Motion by Chairman Solner, second by Member Johnston. Is there any discussion? 2/3 vote is required. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Any
Next,
dissenting votes at this time to be recorded? If not, it is unanimous. Sir, you have the floor.
next item is C1B, request approval of a 2018 purchase order budget ordinance through the Auditor's Office, and I so move.
Motion by Chairman Solner. Is there a second? Second by Member Woolrab. Comments or questions? If none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion has carried.
Third item is C1C, request approval of a 2019 purchase order budget ordinance, and it's also through the Auditor's Office, and I would so move.
Motion by Chairman Solner. Is there a second? Second by Member Schaefer. Comments or questions? If none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion has carried.
Last item is C1D, request approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2018 combined annual appropriation general fund 0001, County Clerk 0005-0006. This also requires a 2/3 vote, and I so move.
Motion by Chairman Solner. Is there a second? Second by Member Schaefer. Comments or questions? If none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any dissenting votes to be recorded? If not, the motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our general report can be found on pages 11 through 15 of the unapproved minutes. I'd be glad to answer any other questions.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to item D, report of the Health Committee. Chair and Member Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Health Committee has 3 items for action. D1A is request approval and emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2018 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance for the Health Department Fund 112, and I so move.
Motion by Chairman Schaefer, second by Member Martin. Comments or questions? If none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This requires a 2/3 vote. Are there any dissenting votes to be recorded? If none, it is passed unanimously.
D1B is an request approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2018 combined annual appropriation budget ordinance for the Health Department Fund 107. This also requires 2/3 vote, and I so move.
Motion by Chairman Schaefer, second by Member Johnston. Comments or questions? If none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any dissenting votes to be recorded? If not, the motion passes unanimously.
D1C is request approval of an ordinance by the McLean County Board amending chapters 205 and 216 of the McLean County Code, and I so move.
Motion by Chairman Schaefer. Is there a second? Second by Member Metzger. Comments or questions? Member Beard.
I'll just make a comment on this. And my reading is that in order to be in compliance with Illinois statute, we're going away from any sort of a rating, or there's a rating system for restaurants for food safety is not going to be allowed or impermissible. Is that?
That's correct.
That's correct. I want to vote for this and completely supportive of this. I would, having lived in communities where restaurants put the A, the B outside, I think it's helpful, and I would hope that in future years Illinois would be open to letting communities do that in a different way. I have seen read reports where it's beneficial to both the restaurant and the consumer to see that posted, and I think it's been effective. So just a comment on our Illinois state statute and things that we're kind of required to do here.
Well, and this is actually the FDA food code, so.
Okay. Are there other comments, questions? If none, all in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion has carried.
Our general report can be found on pages 16 through 20 of the unapproved minutes, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. We'll go on to item E, Land Use and Development Committee. Chairman Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Land Use and Development Committee has no items to be presented for action. Our item was on the consent agenda. Our general report can be found on pages 21 through 22 of the unapproved minutes, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, sir. We'll move on to the report of the Transportation Committee, Chairman Casely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Transportation Committee brings 4 items for action today. The first 2 items I'm going to take together is request for approval of an Illinois Department of Transportation fiscal year 2020 Section 5311 formula application for rural area operating assistance for transit. And this covers parts of a number of counties, including Ford, Iroquois, Livingston, McLean, DeWitt, and the rural areas of Macon County, as Mrs. Dick indicated at the public hearing earlier. The second item to be linked with that is a request for approval of a fiscal year 2020 Downstate Operating Assistance Program application for rural and urban areas, and I move those items, and Mrs. Dick is here to respond to any questions that you may have.
Chairman of the Transportation Committee has moved that we act on items A and B together. Is there any objection? If none, is there a second for his motion? Second by Mrs. Johnson. Thank you. Any comments or questions? If there are none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
The third item we bring is a request for approval of purchase of service agreement between McLean County and Showbus for continuation of the rural public transportation service in the area that I previously indicated, and I move that.
Motion by Chairman Casely. Is there a second? Second by Member Martin. Comments or questions? If none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion has carried.
The fourth item is a request for approval of a revised vehicle lease whereby the county leases vehicles to Showbus to carry on this program, and I move that.
Motion by Chairman Casely, a second. Is there a second? Second by Member Smith. Comments or questions? If none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? And the motion has carried.
Our general report is found in the unapproved minutes on pages 23 through 26, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to item G, Property Committee Report. Chairman Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We bring 4 items for action. Request approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2019 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance, General Fund 0001, Facilities Maintenance 0041, and I so move.
Motion by Chairman Murphy. Is there a second? Second by Member Barnett. Comments or questions? You didn't? Okay. Thank you for your cooperation. Any comments or questions? This is a 2/3 vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion has carried. Any dissenting votes to be recorded? If not, it is unanimous.
Item G1B, request approval of an emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2018 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance, Fairview Building 0360, Facilities Management 0041, and I so move.
Motion by Chairman Murphy. Is there a second? Second by Member Smith. Comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? This is 2/3 vote. Any dissenting votes to be recorded? If none, motion passes unanimously.
Item G1C, request approval of emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2019 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance for General Fund 0001, Facilities Maintenance 0041, and I so move.
Motion by Chairman Murphy, second by Member Schaefer. Comments or questions? If none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion has carried. This is a 2/3 vote. Any dissenting votes to be recorded? Motion carries, passes unanimously.
G1D, request approval of emergency appropriation ordinance amending the McLean County fiscal year 2019 combined annual appropriation and budget ordinance for General Fund 0001, Facilities Management 0041, and County Board 0001, and I so move.
Motion by Chairman Murphy. Is there a second? Second by Member Robustelli. Comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Any dissenting votes to be recorded? If not, it passes unanimously.
That's it for action items. We've got our general report presented for information. I can answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to the report of the County Administrator, Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have nothing else for the County Board today. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other business or communication at this time? Member Solder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to applaud our county clerk. I saw her on WEEK TV this morning at 6 o'clock. I assume it wasn't live, but anyhow, I want to applaud her. She met with other county clerks in, I think, over in Morton, talking about security for our elections. And so one of our most precious rights is our right to vote, and we have to have free and fair elections, and so I appreciate that. I also want to thank her for the information she sent to members of the Finance Committee dealing with election expenses and what's going on, so I appreciate that information.
Is there any other business or communication at this time? If none, we have approval of bills. We have bills that have been reviewed and approved for payment by our auditor in the amount of $2,973,545.29. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Member Casely, second by Member Wolrap. Comments or questions? If none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you for joining us, Mr. Thompson. And this meeting is adjourned.